It's 8 p.m. Welcome to the City Newsroom. My name is Nathan Kwao.
And I am Premier Dinyame. Coming up.
Government announces relief package for fisherfolk around the country ahead of a closed fishing season in August.
Two leading members of the New Patriotic Party, including Ashanti regional boss of the party, Chairman Wontumi, accused by minority of engaging in illegal mining activities.
Also coming up, the National Petroleum Authority suspends 8 bulk distribution companies for tax evasion. We'll hear from the representative of the oil distributors on this bulletin.
Former Senate boss Ernest Thompson makes appearance in court charged with causing financial loss to the state. We'll bring you the latest from the courts.
Let's get the details now. And the Fisheries Ministry has outlined a package for fisherfolk who will be affected by the ban on fishing in August. According to Sector Minister Elizabeth Afolikwe, a portion of profits realized from the sale of premixed fuel has been set aside for distribution to fisherfolk to lessen the severity of the economic impact resulting from the ban.
Now, delivering a statement on the floor of Parliament, Elizabeth Quay said the ban is to ensure that dwindling stock in the country's waters are replenished.
The August close season may have the negative economic impacts as listed below. Fishermen unemployment during the closure period, resulting in loss of income, and 2, imbalances in market price of fish due to the irregular supply of fish to the market during the closure. The sociocultural impact. The August close season is a period when fishers, particularly in the Greater Accra region, who harvest fish to honor the Ganhomowo festival. To mitigate the negative impact of the close season, the following measures have been put in place. Alternative Livelihood Committee has helped select communities to implement alternative livelihood schemes, example, collecting and processing of plastic for money. Landing beach committees are to use some fixed portions of the 53% of the premixed fuel margins meant for development to all fishers identified within their landing beach committees.
All right, so let's stay with the story because this issue has gone on for so long, and my colleague Philip Nilate, who has been on the story for weeks, is here to give us more insight. Thank you very much, Philip, for your time.
Welcome, Frema.
Now, when this whole issue started, you were in Jamestown and Choco.
Yes.
What was the initial reaction of the fisherfolk?
So the initial reaction was that the fisherfolk are saying that this particular directive will affect them and their livelihood. So in the month of June, the last week of June, the Fisheries Ministry released the statement that they are going to ban all fishing activities in the month of August because in the month of August we have the fishes, or the fish rather, to feed or consume rapidly, and they also grow quickly and also spawn. So for this reason, the Fisheries Ministry thought it wise that why don't we close the season at this period. But getting back to the fisherfolk, they are of the view that for 1 month, what are they going to have on their table? Because some of them get an amount of 100 to 500 Ghana cedis a day. So if 1 month, that means a day, what are they going to spend? And some of them are of the view that even if they stay home for a day, it's like a year. So for this reason, they are against the Western region. We had a number of demonstrations coming from that place, but also for the Greater Accra region, the Ghana National Canoe Fishermen Council also are against it, and they are of the view that they will sue the ministry if it goes ahead to implement this ban.
All right, so we have your first report when you went to Jamestown and Choco. Let's see what the fisherfolk said.
Fishermen in recent times have complained about the decline in catch, despite spending long hours on the sea. The usual August bumper catch is no more. To check this problem, the government has announced a 1-month ban on fishing, but the fishermen are opposed to this move. Fishermen in Choco and Jamestown, two fishing communities in the Greater Accra region, tell City TV the ban will gravely affect them.
Ona ke ya inka ya wo 1 month here. In the manner sky ni ka ku ami. Na mba ya me school e. Imbelo ko kula ni matu no. Imbelo ko kula ni matu aja wo wole no jimi. Ona wole no jimi. Oni wole no ndoko be ni matu we. Wo ya. Keje igbe kan bias. Keje igbe kan bias. Wo impapa ti an de for me. Ni e for me e wo me school. Ke wo me school no ke egbe wo ya.
Kega me 40 years. Ni ina ko 2000 no nka ko mbike ni mami ka no fia no ka mana ka ga ba nshona ni ta she mi ni yaje pen to ka shi ma ya tutu alo ma ya ju ona ni mo nya ju ma ju e woni so mi nu ju ho ma fi ala ni ya yo ni o ka nga shi na o mo ba yemi anu kwale stand
ka ba no kra aga ga won ya ho ba po wona na one ya one bapo every day one ya one bapo one ana come on touch 1 month she no dan no watch won on a first ya wo na ke ko obi ne tun wula ake ko obi ne ya school first ya wo na ke fi oni bi bia ne ko o ya wo ko ba nyo fere ko ba jo akolo won no ni on page won panye fa ke ji lele ni government e ye wan leko na nya ke chion chauffeur na 1 month bele China bi ye troll say renet bi ye petrol say ne ken legine etiamena yawo wo to legine won kala ke etiamena yawo ko ni won wonu chumo esole fi yawo.
Effective next month, you no more see activities like these again because the Ministry of Fisheries and Aquaculture Development has imposed a 1-month ban on all fishing activities along the country's coast. This is to protect aquatic organism resources. But the Deputy Minister for Fisheries and Aquaculture, Francis Atu-Kujo, has announced that the ministry is working on securing resources to cushion Ghanaian fisherfolk for the period they would not be working.
What we are working at is ensuring that within every fishing community, 368 fishing communities that we have, some kind of support and assistance is sent to these communities. To cushion them, the ministry is still soliciting for support and raising capital.
Right, so these are fisher folks from the Greater Accra region, Jamestown and Choko. Now, Philip, regardless of the issues and the concerns that these fisher folks are raising, I mean, the petroling issue and the dynamite use and all, the ministry says it is still going ahead to enforce the ban. Yes,
so the ministry said that and also said that individuals who are found culpable during this period will be fined an amount of $50,000 to $2 million. And for this reason, most of the fishermen are asking that where are they going to get this amount of money to pay. They're rather asking the ministry to go ahead to make sure that the illegal methods of fishing is dealt with. Like you mentioned, the petroling, the light fishing, and the use of dynamite, because they had a committee that they set, and out of the committee report with these various illegal methods are the methods that are causing the dwindle in fish stock. So these fishermen are of the view that why don't you tackle that and leave the ban on fishing? And even if you should ban it now, are you going to tackle it? And when you come back and it's still the same issue, that means it's more or less like cost 90. You've not done anything. So for this, they are asking various questions. Today, they had a press conference and they are still of the same opinion that the fisheries ministry should deal with the illegal methods. And they are still opposing the ban on fishing. But the ministry has also said that after the 1 month, they are really going to check all these illegal means of fishing, but still the fisher folk are agitating. Well, let's go to the Western region and hear what they also have been saying.
We're currently here at the secondary fishing harbour, popularly known as the Albert Bosomjusam Fishing Harbour. So this morning, what they are doing is that they have placards, which some of them read, Afole should be sacked, 2020 is coming, no fish, no boats. We have been talking to some of them.
It's never too long a time, but then, what am I going to tell my wife? That the government has banned the fishing activities for 1 month. Therefore, the bank should not come and take this money from me. Those are the issues that we are trying to work. We come to compromise with the government. We will not what? do anything with the government. But it's our plea that we are pleading with him that he should listen to us so that things will be peaceful for us. Then secondly, when we come to MGO about the marine gas oil issue, compared to the premise is now 375 Ghana cedis. Then the MGO, which is the marine gas oil, is 870 Ghana cedis. And we all go to the same fishing ground. We sell the fish at the same fishing market. And we work with the same fish models. So why is this so? So we are pleading with him. We know it's a listing government to work, to reduce the price so that it will be equal to the premise. That is what we are asking the government to do for us.
This is Amboya.
Interesting happenings. So what happens next?
So what is going to happen next is that the fisher folk at Jamestown are threatening to march to the Jubilee House and make sure that they talk to the president to end or
and
not.
That was supposed to happen last week.
Last week, no, this Monday. Just this Monday.
Yeah, and it didn't happen.
Yes, it didn't happen, but the information I had from sources, they are saying that they will still go ahead because it looks like the Fisheries Ministry wants to still go ahead with the ban. For this reason, they'll still go ahead with the march. And also, if you go to Jamestown as of now and other places along the coast, you see that they have red bands tied to their heads and their wrists and their foreheads just to make sure that they are still against this ban on all fishing activities, effective August 7 to September 4.
Philip, thank you very much for your insight into the story.
Thank you.
Right, so early today, members of the Ghana National Canoe Fishermen Council said they will continue to mount pressure on the government until it suspends the impending closed season. My colleague Kojo Ajiman has been speaking to them.
For these fisher folk, any ban on fishing for even a week will put their livelihoods at risk. They have vowed to put pressure on government to rescind its decision. A 2017 survey by the University of Cape Coast Department of Fisheries and Aquatic Sciences revealed that Ghana's fish stock will continue to see a further decline in the coming years. As a measure to reverse the trend, the government has imposed 1-month ban on all fishing activities in the country from next month. It says the closed season is not going to be a one-off process, but will continue year by year until Ghana's fish stock improves. The Control and Surveillance Unit at the Fisheries Commission, the Navy, the Marine Police and the Fisheries Enforcement Unit will conduct patrols on Ghana's waters to enforce the directive. Government is bent on enforcing the ban, but members of the Ghana National Canoe Fishermen Association say that is not the solution. They say until laws on illegal fishing methods are strictly enforced, the August ban will be counterproductive. Ni Abil Chikwanda is the executive secretary of the council.
We want everybody here present to know that contrary to what is being bandied about, this is the very first time marine close season has been declared in Ghana. We also want to state that this is the first time in the industry, in the history of our industry, fishery industry, that fish stocks have been dwindled to the dangerous low level that they have fallen to. The unwholesome situation, this unwholesome situation has come about as a result of the illegal fishing practices and other unapproved methods of fishing, like trawling, light fishing, use of monofilament and undersized mesh nets, use of chemicals, etc. and etc. to fish. Unfortunately, these destructive fishing practices, which are responsible for the drastic depletion of marine fish stocks, are still going on with wild abandon.
Now we've been joined on the telephone lines by co-convener of Fisheries Alliance, Registrar Ne Ama Amafio. Hello, good evening. Thanks for your time.
Good evening.
Right, last year you said that there was going to be a possible ban on fishing in this year, that's 2018. Now, what observations informed this prediction?
Last year I was in a meeting once with the Scientific and Technical Working Group in Elmina when the proposal for an August closure came up. And at the time, there had not been any general closure except for closure for trawlers in 2016 November, 2017 January and February, and of course this year January and February for just the trawlers. I happen to have been a member of a team that visited Philippines to look at issues of closure, and so when it came up, I knew that there was going to be a possibility of a closure. But then there were issues that came up that include issues of livelihood for the generality of fishermen. Should there be a closure? And so it was just a cautious approach. At the time, some of us thought that we didn't need a general closure. What we needed was what we call area closure, and required a further research into areas where the fish spawn, areas where the fish rest. We also need to look again at our marine ecosystem. You see, the fisheries has relations with the external environment. That includes our lagoons, estuaries, and even the riverine systems. And so in managing fisheries, you don't just manage activities of fishermen. You also manage activities of persons who are related to all our natural water bodies because of the linkage between the natural water body and the marine system.
So would you...
So even though some of us were aware that stocks were depleting, we have not managed our fishery as a... We passed the fisheries law in 2002, and the law requires us to have a fisheries management plan. Between 2002 and 2013, we never had a fisheries management plan. We only had a fisheries management plan in 2004. And so, if you had a fisheries management plan in 2014, when you had passed the law in 2002, when we knew way ahead that the stocks were declining, and we didn't take any measure to manage the stocks, and we come today to tell all fishermen within 2 weeks to close the fishery at the time that they have made investments, it brings a lot of pressure on the fishermen.
Absolutely. So would you agree with what the fishermen are saying, that they should be looking at other issues, that is the patrolling and the use of light, etc., instead of the 1 month ban? Would this change anything?
Yeah, I agree with that, but there's no patrolling in Ghana. Let me make that correction. There's trolling. There's no patrolling in Ghana.
Yeah.
I agree that we need to look at the total marine ecosystem, not just fishing activities. Why do we continue to connect drains into lagoons? Look at the question, look at the Sakumo Intema. They are all part of the marine ecosystem. As we do not even know where the fish spawn. When we say the fish spawn, where they give birth. The fish have a migratory pattern. We do not even know that when we close the fishing in August, the Sardinella stock that we want to protect so much will remain in Ghana or will go into Ivorian territory. And so, if we close the fishing now, and we do not do any scientific research, the closure will be in vain.
Right,
what some of us are proposing is that, can we put scientists on our vessels as observers to give us scientific information on the Sardinella stocks, particularly when they are gravid, that is when they are pregnant, at what time they spawn, where they spawn, what the conditions around the areas they spawn. For instance, they spawn around the estuary. Then what are the conditions? Because if they spawn around the estuary and people are polluting the lagoon, what it means is that the environment around where they spawn will be polluted. So the chances of survival for the fingerling and the juvenile will be low.
Right.
And
So what happens
because
now?
If you don't have this information, you go ahead to close. Maybe even.
Well, the ministry says it's going ahead to ban, and the fisher folk are agitating. They are protesting this ban. What happens next?
No, what happens next is that we need to sit at the table again and look at the issues critically, because there are livelihood involved. And if we force to close, the ramification will be too much for us to bear as a country. We are talking of over 200,000 individuals directly in the fishing industry. We are not talking about the women or the headquarters or any other. Just the fishermen, about 200,000 people. When you close the fishery for about 200,000 people, they are not working for 1 month. And in August, when they don't work for 1 month, it's like when you are not taking your salary for about 3 or 4 years.
All right.
Criminal activities are going to go very high. None of us will be safe because you cannot keep these people out and not working. And I'm not sure that we have adequate data to be able to give them any form of compensation. The government needs to look at the policy again. We have a major and minor upwelling. This is the major upwelling. If it's not possible to close around the major upwelling, can we look at the minor upwelling? But before we get to the minor upwelling, can we do further research to know where spawning areas are? In most places, what they do is that they close areas and then they manage the gear. Because even you close the fishery and then you open the fishery and people are using small mesh size, they are likely to harvest a juvenile that has been born. So you need to regulate the gear that is being used in fishing.
Thank you very much. We'll have to end here. Right, so you're still watching City Newsroom live on City TV. We have more news coming up. Do stay.
The City FM Literacy Challenge is back. Are you a JHS student? Are you willing to contribute to change? What would you do if you were the president of Ghana? Do you want to win a whopping 10,000 Ghana cedis? If yes, then participate in the Literacy Challenge 2018. Level 1. The year is 2035. The law allows people below age 40 to contest the presidency. As a presidential candidate in a general election, in no less than 600 words, write your manifesto speech. Remember, letter must be in your own handwriting, must be endorsed by a parent or guardian. Add your full contact details and post to the Literacy Challenge, P.O. Box GP 14123 Accra Central, or drop it off at the front desk of City FM at the Braka behind the police station. Level 2. The top 50 students selected from all over Ghana shall take a written general knowledge quiz. And finally, Level 3. The top 10 students shall compete in the classic quiz competition to win the ultimate prize of 10,000 Ghana cedis. The Literacy Challenge is powered by 97.3 City FM and sponsored by Data Bank Edifund and MoneyGram with support from City TV. Closing date for entries is Friday, 10th August 2018. Call 0205-973-973 for more inquiries. Terms and conditions apply.
We spice up your mornings with culturally enriched conversations, social interviews, and policy-oriented discussions that will keep you updated on the progress of the nation.
Because we're giving only those in their third trimester. So in the next 3 months, those in their second would be ready to receive the kits. And we're taking data at registration, which is before they take the kits, at delivery and post-delivery, so that we can analyze and we'll see the numbers. So from the numbers and the data that we're collecting, we would know what has worked, what hasn't worked, you know.
Join the Breakfast Daily team Monday through Fridays from 7:30 a.m. to 10. Let your voice be heard with the hashtag Breakfast Daily. Join us for breakfast daily, only on City TV.
For regular news checks as they unfold, 2020 news all day, all the time. Politics, sports, entertainment, business, and more. 2020 news. We bring you the world in 20 minutes.
And that's all the news in 20 minutes.
Hi, welcome back to the City Newsroom live on City TV. My name is Nathan Carr. Let's get to Parliament. And the minority in that August House has accused two leading members of the New Patriotic Party of engaging in illegal mining, popularly known as galamsey, despite the ban on the practice. According to minority spokesperson on Mines and Energy, Adams Mutawa Kilu, the CEO of the Forestry Commission, Kwejo Owusu-Efriye, also known as Sir John, and Ashanti Regional Chairman of the MPP, Bernard Entribo Esiaku Wuntumi, are involved in the act at Jakobu in the Ashanti region. Addressing the media, the Damongo MP called on the president to restrain his party people to avoid further destruction of the country's forests and natural resources.
That, Mr. President, you are shielding your appointees from engaging in galamsey. Sit up, investigate and work. All forestry areas that are marked as reclamation zone should be properly investigated. And I want to urge Operation Vanguard, irrespective of these threats from them, go ahead, arrest them, because Mother Ghana is supreme. We are not fighting galamsey by mouth, it's by action. The government and the president comes to say, oh, I'm fighting galamsey, when he is much aware that his own apprentices are engaged in galamsey, using official powers to engage in galamsey. And they are not the only two. We know of two more. But in due course, we'll come out, we'll flash out those names for you to see.
Yeah, why are you keeping those names? You've mentioned two already. Why are you then keeping the other two from the public? Because the public...
That is what I'm saying, that in due course, because I want to have details. I have, in respect to Jakobu, the excavators, their numbers, the pickups, the number of arms that was seized.
So we stay with the story, and I've been joined by my colleague, Kojo Ajiman, who's been following the galamsey trail, and he will give us an update on what's happening. Kojo, nice to have you on the City Newsroom. First of all, we do know that the government put in place a ban to keep a check on the galamsey menace. So far, what has been done, or what has the ban achieved?
Well, so far, in terms of policy and equipment, the government has done, I would say 50%.
Okay.
Because we now have courts that specially deal with galamsey cases. There's an anti-interministerial task force that deals with galamsey. We have a national task force that also deals with galamsey. And in terms of equipment, we've procured over 200 drones to fight illegal mining. So if you look at that, you say we are doing something. But then last week I was in the Western region. Okay. When you look at the river Nkobra and Pra, we need to do more.
You mentioned in your first submission about a joint task force.
Yeah.
What has that task force been up to? And if you compare it to the results on the ground, have they made enough gains to ensure that the rest of the fight is winnable, or they are still struggling to deal with the galamsey challenge?
Well, this task force was inaugurated in August last year, so we have a month for them to be a year.
Okay.
Now, their task was to go there and flush out illegal miners.
Okay.
As we speak, they've arrested over 2,000 illegal miners and also destroyed 1,500 shamfans and machines that were used by illegal miners. Okay. And they have challenges. You know, the illegal miners that deal along the water bodies, Pra and then Nkobra, for instance, they know the terrain very well. So they are unable to arrest them along these water bodies. So they want equipment to go there and fight these illegal miners. And also, they have complained severally about the punishment being given out to illegal miners. They are saying that their sentences are not punitive enough. So, for example, if you find an illegal miner 2,000 Ghana cedis, he'll be able to pay this money and then go back to his site and work. So they want the judiciary to do more in terms of the sentence and to hand it out to illegal miners.
And this ban on illegal mining, will it be lifted? That's what I should be asking. Will it be lifted? How soon, if you do know? And what will be the way forward? Even though we have this ban in place and there's a joint task force, we are getting drones. What's the status of that ban? Will it be taken away?
How soon? The minister says until the water bodies get clean. Okay. The ban is not going to be lifted. But then we are waiting for the launch of the multi-sectorial mining integrated project, the 500 million project that is going to give alternative livelihood to illegal miners who have lost their jobs as a result of the ban. In fact, they've started distributing palm seedlings to the illegal miners. Last time I checked, they had distributed over 2 million seedlings to the illegal miners so that they will enter into palm harvesting and all that, so that they will not go back to the mines. But as to timelines, we do not know when the ban will be lifted.
The minister hasn't hinted at that.
No, he said until the water bodies get clean, we are not going to go back to mine.
So it means that fight is still on.
It's still on.
We'll see if we can win that. Thank you very much, Kojo. So that was my colleague, Kojo, who's been following the Galamsey episode and ensuring or keeping his eye on and bringing us updates on the field in relation to the illegal mining menace, popularly known as Galamsey. You're still watching the City Newsroom. We'll take a short break. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
The City FM Literacy Challenge is back. Are you a JHS student? Are you willing to contribute to change? What would you do if you were the president of Ghana? Do you want to win a whopping 10,000 Ghana cedis? If yes, then participate in the Literacy Challenge 2018. Level 1. The year is 2035. The law allows people below age 40 to contest the presidency. As a presidential candidate in a general election, in no less than 600 words, write your manifesto speech. Remember, letter must be in your own handwriting, must be endorsed by a parent or guardian. Add your full contact details and post to the Literacy Challenge, P.O. Box GP 14123 Accra Central, or drop it off at the front desk of City FM at the Braka behind the police station. Level 2. The top 50 students selected from all over Ghana shall take a written general knowledge quiz. And finally, Level 3. The top 10 students shall compete in the classic quiz competition to win the ultimate prize of 10,000 Ghana cedis. The Literacy Challenge is powered by 97.3 City FM and sponsored by Data Bank Edifund and MoneyGram with support from City TV. Closing date for entries is Friday, 10th August 2018. Call 0205-973-973 for more inquiries. Terms and conditions apply.
Hello again. A former Director General of the Social Security and National Insurance Trust, SNIT, Ernest Thompson, has been charged with willfully causing financial loss to the state, conspiracy to commit crime, and contravention of the public procurement. This is in relation to the over $140 million operating business suite OBS contract during his tenure in office.
The former Director General of SNIT is facing charges alongside the OBS project manager John Hagan Mensah and Juliet Hassan Akrama of IT company Perfect Business System. The state also charged one other accused person, former head of the IT department of SNIT, Caleb Kwekua Faglo, of defrauding by false pretense. Attorney General Gloria Kufu spoke to the media after the hearing.
Brief facts are that Social Security and National Insurance Trust wanted to update their operations by going IT to the extent that they want to catch up with best trends. A contract was executed. Now, prior to that, there was an advert for bidding. In the end, a company which did not even offer a bid was offered the contract together with a Malaysian company, purportedly to form a consortium. The agreement was in the sum of about $34 million US. But in the end, other payments were made for services that were already covered in the contract sum. And therefore, they proceeded under what they captioned as variations and orders, which ballooned the figure to in excess of $66 million US. Accused persons played different roles in causing this loss to the state. So they have been arraigned for causing these losses, and that would include conspiracy, that would include several heads of causing financial loss to the state, that will include offenses contrary to the Procurement Act, and for the fourth accused person, he also gained admission as SNIT based on qualifications and certificates in his possession, which he didn't really possess. And so for these reasons, they have been arraigned before court. Even brothels that operate illegally, if they are taxable, they are taxed before they are arraigned before court. So if there is an unknown entity, they claim, I don't have any evidence showing that an unknown and non-existent company has been paying tax to the country. At this stage, the evidence will show, ultimately, whether or not what they are saying is true. But when we speak about a non-existent company, companies don't just come into being. There are processes for registering companies that are recognized in law in this country. I would not go further than that because I do not want to be doing my case ahead of the hearings.
Now I've been joined by my colleague Sixtus Don Ulo to tell us more about this deal. Thank you very much for your time, Sixtus.
Welcome, Firma.
Right, so bring us up to speed, regarding how we got here with a charge of causing financial loss to the states. That's a huge one.
Firma, this story started developing from way back 2010, but we got hint of it in early 2016 when the new management and board took over the management of SNIT. That was when Dr. Tinkran, now current DG of SNIT, together with the board chair, Dr. Adokufo, convened a press conference. And the minds of the press was blown by some of the things that they said regarding the amount of money that was spent on a system that was later discovered to be dysfunctional. Now, this particular system was supposed to have integrated all the interfaces within SNIT. So the internal structures, operational systems of SNIT was supposed to have been integrated, also integrating the internal operational systems of SNIT with its other stakeholders to take away the delays that were encountered by their clients anytime they had to deal with SNIT. And so you may say the intent was good. It was with a good intention that the project was started. But what is actually the problem is the amount of money that went into it. 10 companies bid for this particular contract, 10 of them. And we understand that out of this 10, there was one, Sambu's Company Limited, which probably had the list of the quotations that everybody kept asking. Why was this company not awarded this particular contract? It was it bid at $9.8 million. Also, we had Pesol Systems, which bid at $17.4 million. But the contract was actually awarded to Perfect Business Systems in consortium with Silver Lake.
Were they part of the bidders?
Yes, they were part of the process. But the worry was that their initial bid was $27.6 million. But after all was said and done, the authority realized that through some errors, mathematical errors that they had encountered, the actual figure that was supposed to be have been quoted by PBS, Perfect Business Systems, was 34 million US dollars.
Yeah.
So that is where the problem started from. Now, this particular figure ballooned from $34 million to $72 million. What caused this ballooning? Service agreements that they had to sign. That all of these, we understood later, were part of the original contract that was signed. So, for instance, if there was ever to be a problem with the systems as was run by Perfect Business Systems, then there would be a maintenance. This maintenance would have a cost. You would have to pay for this particular maintenance. Now, the original agreement or contract that was signed between SNIT and PBS and Silver Lake included charges for these particular set maintenances. So we're paying double. Sad part is, even though we're paying double, we were not getting the services. This is where the problem again came in. Now, this ballooned the figure from $34 million to $72 million. As if that was not enough, an audit that was conducted by Senate contracted independent auditors to do this particular audit, when they realized that there was actually something wrong with the system. And the audit showed that actually the figure was not 72 million, as we all had thought initially. It was 147 million US dollars plus. So see the journey from 34, it jumps to 72, it jumps to $147 million.
But the procurement laws, did the Director General at the time had the mandate to approve such huge figures?
We understand that the then Director General, Ernest Thompson, did not. Okay. I mean, there are some levels at which you can approve, but when it goes beyond a particular threshold, then you would have to seek approval, you would have to seek authority. Now, the interesting part of it is that the in-house counsel at the time, Peter Haibo, he had initially in his assessment of the contract, in his independent opinion of the contract, advised NIT against going ahead to sign this particular contract. But he turned around to witness the execution of the contract or the signing of the contract between SNIT and PBS Silver Lake. This is where he also got himself implicated, because he knew the consequences. He knew that the DG at the time did not have the authority or mandate to authorize the contract. He knew that the agreement, the original contract, included the service agreements or service charges, all of those variations that were later talked about that eventually ballooned the figure. Yet, even though he had advised against it, when the paper came before him to sign, he endorsed it, and which was problematic for him to, and that is why he's part of the persons charged
I think for what will happen next, we'll have to wait for the course. But quickly before you go, let's look at Caleb Afaglu, the head of the IT department. He came in, I mean, his charge is defrauding by false pretenses. He brought in all these huge certificates. Nobody found out?
Maybe that would go back to the recruitment processes.
Yeah.
But from all the investigations that have been done so far, we had IOCO looking into this, and then the investigations, independent investigations that SNIT contracted or commissioned into this particular event. It all showed that the certificates he presented for employment into SNIT were actually faked. They were not genuine, to quote them. The certificates were not genuine. And so he's also being charged by with false pretenses.
Well, so we'll leave the rest to the courts. Sisters, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Right, so you're still watching City Newsroom live on City TV. Moving on, the National Petroleum Authority, NPA, has suspended 8 oil marketing companies, OMCs, and bulk distribution companies, BDCs, for their involvement in activities that led to loss of tax revenue to the government. The suspension lasts between 1 and 3 months. A statement signed by the Corporate Affairs Division of the NPA urged the public to cease doing business with the companies. Here are excerpts of statement read by my colleague Zoe Abubedu.
The suspension, which took effect from the 18th of July, means that the companies are to desist from engaging in the sale, supply, transportation, discharge, and receipt of petroleum products for the duration of their suspension. The companies suspended for a month are Union Oil Ghana Limited, Agapet Limited, Excel Oil Company Limited, Missile Energy Company Limited, and Globex Energy Company Limited. The others, which were suspended for 3 months, are Petro Afrique Company Limited, Life Petroleum Company Limited, and Unique Company Limited. The statement advised the public to desist from doing business with or report any infringement on the part of the listed companies to the National Petroleum Authority.
Still on the story, and the Ghana Chamber of Bulk Oil Distributors has described as inaccurate the press release by the National Petroleum Authority describing two of its members, Missile Energy Company Limited and Globex Energy Company Limited, as culprits in the petroleum tax evasion. A statement from the Chamber of Bulk Oil Distributors said the NPA breached its own laws as well as the terms and conditions governing their licenses in indicting the two companies. It maintained that BDCs do not collect petroleum taxes or pay petroleum taxes in the petroleum tax administration process. Let's get to the phone now and speak to the CEO of the Chamber of Bulk Oil Distributors, Senor Hossi, on this issue. Good evening, sir. If you can hear me, welcome to the City Newsroom.
Yeah, good evening, and good evening to your viewers.
First of all, the NPA has named two of your members for under-declaring supplies of petroleum products, Globex Energy Company Limited, for example, and Missile Energy. Our checks show that the NPA is suspending the company for under-declaring diesel it supplied to Union Oil in January this year. The regulators say that the company supplied 918,000 litres, but only 661,500 litres, leading to revenue losses were recorded. Now, why is the chamber saying that these two entities are not culpable for this offence, as being stated by the NPA?
First of all, I think the first thing you should do is to be honest and fair to our viewers. Which part of the statement said exactly what you said? No part. The statement went on to just refer to these people as people who had evaded taxes. So I think that's where we should start responding to the issues. If you've gone to check back with the MPA and you have further information, you can follow up with that. But if what refers to the statement, I think it should be fair to the viewers. No part of the statement refers to anything you said about under-declaring the volumes that had been sold to these people.
All right, but Mr.
So let's start right.
Yes.
Respectfully, I think we should start right.
Okay, so why then are you saying that the MPA is not acting right in naming these two companies?
No, please. Be fair to the viewers, and let's have a very healthy conversation. What did the statement of the MPA say?
Hello?
I'm here. What did the statement of the MPA say? Let's have a fair discussion and fair journalism here. What did the statement say? And what exactly did our response say? I think you made a reference, and that reference was wrong. The statement that you're trying to claim the MPA made is not what you just said. So kindly let your viewers hear exactly what the MPA statement said.
The two entities have evaded tax. That's what the statement says.
Thank you very much. You didn't talk about under-declaration of volume. They are not the same. And that's why we released our statement to indicate that the MPA has not sanctioned anybody for tax evasion. And clearly in our statement, we have stated what these people have been sanctioned for. Under-declaring the volume sold, I think in 1 or 2 months. And you should realize that the MPA is not a tax collecting agency. The declarations that are made to the MPA are not for tax purposes. But it is wrong for anybody to misinform the MPA, because MPA relies on that for data analysis, for policy analysis, and also for the monitoring and management of the industry. That data can also serve as a tertiary level of data validation for anybody who needs the data. And it is wrong to do that. And we support the MPA's, sanctioning of anybody who misrepresents what he has to do. Over the years, BBC reports were very important to a BDC's economic life because of subsidies. Today it is not. So there are lackadaisical attitudes to it. Top management have not taken some of these things seriously. And we have time and we have on many occasions had reason to encourage and tell BDCs they need to take responsibility for these things. So nobody questions the sanction, but the reason for the sanction as stated in the NPA release was wrong, inaccurate, and that's what we sought to correct at this stage.
All right, Mr. Hosi, tell me, what is the process for checking if one entity is under declaring tax or not, an entity that's related to
So there are
work?
two differences. You want to understand the tax curve. It's not the NPA that collects the tax. It's not the NPA that monitors the tax. So I'll share with you how it works. The first thing that happens before you sell a product to an OMC, you go into the GRA system and seek a pre-approval. They authorize your approval and state, and they have full data from the BDC as to how much you are going to sell to an OMC. Bear in mind, a BDC does not pay taxes to the GRA. The BDC does not collect taxes on behalf of the GRA in that entire process. But it feeds the GRA with information, and that's the first information, the pre-approval. That pre-approval authorizes or mandates or gives the BDC a basis to sell to an OMC or authorize liftings by OMC at a depot. So that again serves as what I will call a secondary source of data reconciliation for tax purposes. The third thing that the BDC does, as far as data is concerned, after a period, may not authorize, but may share information with the MP as to what it has done. That has nothing to do with the tax process. The OMC is responsible for paying the taxes. They have to report to the tax authorities the volumes they have lifted and the taxes that they are supposed to pay. The GRA has a responsibility to reconcile the data primarily submitted by the BDC in the pre-approval process, check from the depot what exact liftings were made by the OMC before authorizing or accepting any tax assessment. But if they do not do that, and they want to do that based on an OMC's data, which may have another sign of a BDC, you make mistakes. And it has, again, nothing to do with the data that goes to the NPA. Reporting to the NPA and then reporting to the GRA are separate activities. And it's the OMC that has the responsibility of accurately reporting what is taxable.
So, Mr.
And
Hosi,
that process of reconciliation is between the OMC and the GRA.
okay, all right. So, Mr. Hosi, what's next? You've put out a statement. You are clearly displeased by the action. What are you going to do after releasing this statement?
Oh, no, it doesn't matter. Look, we are partners in this exercise. The NPA has been working with the chamber on this entire exercise, trying to get through this entire disciplinary process as far as these BDCs are concerned, involve the chamber. The advocacy against tax evasion is one that is also co-led by the chamber. So we're still going to work together. We just wanted to correct some misrepresentation of the, miscommunication of the facts.
All right, Mr. Hosi, thank you very much.
Tomorrow, there's tax evasion that is observed, and per those transactions, it will not be the BDC who would have evaded tax. Maybe an OMC may have evaded tax. Is it possible that a BDC abetted and aided the process? We will have to go through a proper investigation process to establish that. And anybody found culpable, the chamber will not protect anybody. We will help hang anybody who is culpable at any time. This tax evasion has the state, it has the industry, and we are vehemently against it. And we stand with the state at all times on this matter.
All right, thank you very much, Senor Hosi. He's CEO of the Bulk Oil Distributors. Let's get to other stories. And residents of Odorna in Accra are up in arms against the slow pace of work on the construction of the Odorna storm drain. While the market women complain that the project is taking a toll on their businesses, residents lament the obstruction of the waterway, which they say poses a major health risk to them. City Newsroom's Farida Shaibu has this report.
The scene at the Odorna market this morning was quite chaotic as the market women lament the delay in the construction of the Odorna storm drain. A confrontation between the workers and the market women led to a brawl. The traders are agitated about the slow pace of the project, which started almost a year ago. According to these market women, though the construction will be highly beneficial in addressing the age-old perennial flooding in the area, the slow pace of work is taking a toll on their businesses.
In fact,
so we want to know my quan now, not calling to me methodie because I'm a madam method na my cocha, quantin there, maybe dear for baby fufu.
But like these market women, some residents are worried about the effect it is having on them. Our, for instance, has come to make a complaint to the supervisor for the umpteenth time. The situation has led to flooding in her home.
And I'm saying,
so this is part of the Odona drain, and as you can see behind me, work has resumed on this storm drain project. But one of the major challenges for residents here is that the waterway has been blocked, breeding a lot of mosquitoes, because as you can see, the water here remains stagnant and not flowing as it used to be. And if you look into this water, you can realize that a lot of rubbish, heap of rubbish is in here. Now the residents, of course, complain that this poses a health risk to them as mosquitoes continue to feast on them.
But the foreman explains the challenges they are facing in completing the project.
Unfortunate that the machine got spoiled. Like after excavating, and my boys are on the ground. Everyone in there, if there's some local, we clear. There's nowhere, there's no a time that they will come and ask us to remove this whereby we can't do it. Everyone in there, when they come, we go, we help them. We have been helping them to clear whatever trouble that they are having.
He says when funds are made available, they'll be able to complete the project in no time to avert further troubles.
We need money for materials, cement, iron rod, chippings, sand. Usually when you bring like hiring machine, we are using our own at the moment. By the time we were hiring, it's about 3,000 a day. Even the fuel is not included. For us, the government was not coming in. That is the only thing we can do. We have to relax our efforts so that we wait for any help from the government.
Reporting for City Newsroom from the Odona Market, my name is Farida Shaibu.
The Minister of Zongo and Inner City Development, Boniface Abubakar Siddiq, says government will compensate families of the 7 killed suspected robbers should the police be found culpable of shooting them without just cause. His comment comes after an autopsy report showed that some of them were shot at close range.
Speaking after some aged members of Medina paid a courtesy call on him, the minister, who doubles as the MP of the constituency, also said the report of the independent committee of inquiry set up to investigate the incident in the Ashanti region would be ready within a month.
Are they going to be compensated, the family, if just in case?
If it happens that they were innocently killed, definitely, because they will have lawyers to defend their case. And I'm sure something of that will happen. I am more or less a mediator. I have been sent. It is government and then the committee that will advise the president as to what to do. I am just an ordinary person. I'm a minister of state, a servant of the people, and therefore I have been able to carry the message, and that is facilitating the creation of the committee of inquiry. And I'm sure within the shortest possible time we should get everything done. This matter, I believe there are certain issues. They will do the longest for such issues should not be more than 1 month.
And this is where we draw the curtain on City Newsroom, live on City TV. For more news, do log on to citynewsroom.com.
My name is Nathan Kwao.
And I am Fremere Dunyami. Have a great evening.
For health insurance, his love for Professor Mills, and his ambition to beat a loaded NDC field to become the party's flag bearer for the 2020 elections. Sylvester Mensah is next on Face to Face.
Welcome to Face, Mr. Mensah.
My pleasure, my pleasure.
Outside of the NHIA, you've been hiding. What have you been up to?
No, I've not been hiding. I've been all over the place, running around, walking around, listening, talking. Yes, it's been quite interesting.
Has there been a change in motion for you, for somebody who was used to running?
Yeah, well, on one hand, it appears a well-deserved rest. On another hand, yes, there's still work to do. We can't remain in opposition. We need to start working towards getting back the mandate of the people, and that requires a lot of talking, engaging, discussing, and importantly, listening. And so we've been in the process of listening a lot more and engaging.
Oh, okay. Now, I realized you are the longest serving CEO of the National Health Insurance Authority, but you didn't leave it quietly. Some say you were kicked out for political machinations. Are you clear, conscience-wise, that you left the NHIA on good note?
Oh yeah, on a very good note. The only assessment and legitimate assessment that one can do is to look at the health insurance scheme in terms of structure, systems, management, and funding. At the time of 2009 and the time we left office in 2016, if you're able to do that assessment, you would come to no other conclusion than to the fact that we had deepened the process, we had improved upon management, we had improved upon the system, we have generated new initiatives that have made the scheme more efficient, acknowledged internationally, globally. We have placed Ghana on the world map. Everyone looks up to Ghana today for what they refer to as a leading global model when it comes to health insurance. Beyond that, the Health Insurance Authority had become the toast of many international conferences where I've had to deliver several technical papers on how to initiate, how to run, how to manage, and how to develop systems that work within health insurance schemes, the entire value chain. And I think that Ghanaians must be proud of the National Health Insurance Scheme.
But some would say, yeah, you've listed a shiny litany of achievements, but some also say that you left it heavily indebted.
Of course, the health insurance scheme is indebted. And
you don't feel guilty about saying the 6 years of being a CEO?
Well, I mean, if the CEO's responsibility was to generate revenue to feed the health insurance scheme, then one would have said that then the chief executive might have failed in generating revenue. Fortunately, the aspect of revenue generation and funding the scheme does not fall within the remit of the chief executive. It is a direct responsibility of the President of the Republic, of the Minister of Finance, in effect, of government. And so funding is not the responsibility of management.
But Mr. Mensah, it would have been your role to convince them that this is what we need at this point. You take the shine in saying that you're able to put up a fantastic office. You generated that money from somewhere. You set up a national infrastructure. You generated that money from somewhere. So how is it then that you struggled to convince central government that this is what I needed to be able to keep this viable?
Well, I mean, it is very easy to say that. Looking at the health insurance expenditure, the infrastructure that you see does not amount to an average of 1% of its income over the years. I mean, if you are applying 1% of the revenue or income to the health insurance scheme to infrastructure, I think you have been quite generous, and that does not in any way affect the funding of the scheme. But of course, the challenge that we have now as a national health insurance scheme is still funding. The systems are right, management procedures are right, strategies are right. What is left now is for the MPP government to ensure that it provides the requisite funding that would move the health insurance scheme to a completely different level. Our expectation is that no government should fail. Of course, my expectation is that every government must succeed. The health insurance scheme must succeed. At the time the MPP will be leaving office in 2020, we must have something to show that between 2016, 2017 and 2020, 2021, this and this and that are the achievements that the health insurance scheme has chalked. And then we can say as a people, as a country, that there is social progress and that we are making progress.
Is the health insurance a slush fund for politicians? There are those who saying that every time politicians need money for something, they simply come to the NHIA and tell the CEO, give me some money.
Well, I don't know about that.
That
has not been the trend. I mean, there are legitimate expenditure that the scheme has to incur, whether or not the scheme has, as it were, claims to pay. You need to ensure that the staff working with the scheme receive their monthly remuneration. There are other incidental expenses that inform the entire core of, business of the scheme. And so, yeah, but to say that it's a slush fund, I don't know about that.
The Auditor General is constantly worried about the NHIA. In fact, the last time they conducted an audit, you defended yourself by saying that you had just been in office for a few months. But it does not exaggerate the fact that the NHIA seems constantly to be in the bad books of the Auditor General for one incident or the other when it comes to how to handle money.
Well, unfortunately, throughout my 6-year tenure as Chief Executive, and I have all my Auditor General reports available, there hasn't been any single query that bothers on the performance of the scheme, particularly relating to executive management, the Chief Executive, or financial challenges of the scheme. Indeed, I remember on occasion where I had to run into one studio when several stories were coming up about some challenges that the scheme had gone through. Of course, it was a period that predated my leadership. And of course, the moment they heard that what they were discussing were matters that happened long before 2009, the media house went quiet. You could see clearly that the focus was on the NDC regime to find out whether there was anything they could pick and highlight for, for whatever benefit they could derive. But unfortunately, that has never been the case under my stewardship. And I don't know any that you can share with me.
But you didn't leave on a glowing note, did you? You didn't leave under the kind of circumstances you'd have felt that after 6 years, this is how I wanted to leave. There was that incident with the BNI. How do you, when you sit down and reflect, what do you make of that particular scenario?
Well, let me say that I left the health insurance scheme after exactly 6 years in June 2015. I was reassigned to the office of the president as
is that not a political term
as a presidential staffer. Of course, I had an office at the presidency, and I operated from the presidency. Which office is higher? Health insurance and the presidency. The presidency is the highest office of the land.
What were you doing at the presidency?
Well, I was dealing with matters relating to the health sector, and other issues were referred to me for direction and guidance. And I was also
you not being protected?
I was also representing His Excellency the President on functions relating to the health sector. And so, yes, I had a higher responsibility that required a lot more exercise of one's experience.
But some would say you have been protected.
Protected over?
From the fallback of that particular incident, from the BNI, your exoneration. Some would say
no, I was
sent to the presidency so that you would stay out of the public eye.
No. Maybe you got it wrong. I was reassigned before the BNI issue came up. In any case, we talk about BNI. No one has been able to raise any issue that this was the findings of the BNI, you were found culpable for this or that. All that people say is the BNI. Unfortunately, the BNI, I mean, in my view, undertook an exploratory investigations to determine whether there was something clinically wrong with the scheme, whether there were some financial malfeasance or challenges.
Do you find it strange?
And, pardon me?
Do you find it strange?
Well, let me say that when you agree to enter public office, you must accept that you'll be managing the taxpayers' money. And to the extent that you are managing the taxpayers' money, you must be ready to subject yourself to public scrutiny, public inquiry over your stewardship, over your management of the public purse. To that extent, I think that it's fairly legitimate, and I don't read any negative meaning into that. What is critical is a propriety in public office. If some impropriety had been established, then of course I have some challenge and difficulty. But as it is now, there was no impropriety, and I feel rather exonerated. I feel very happy that over a 6-year period, I never had an Auditor General report, adverse findings against actions that I had taken, and again, public investigations into my stewardship also ends up with a formal letter indicating that there has been no adverse finding. How many people have that opportunity of operating in public office for 6 months, going through public scrutiny without a scratch? I think that I am one of the cleanest, and I have a clean bill of health politically. I feel very happy that it happened and I went through that process.
Did you listen to the Finance Minister's media review?
Yes, I did.
And what did you make of this plan to make the NHIA a straight levy?
Well, I think that there are two aspects. One, it's been quite innovative, but it's only the element of deceit that undermines that innovation.
Also,
in the sense that they find it, but there we were. And anybody who understands the operations of VAT, which is a value-added tax. VAT is value-added tax. And if in the past input tax is deducted from output tax, and that is what goes to the Internal Revenue Service, and you decide that you are going to treat the NHI levy, which is a VAT, and the GET fund, which is a VAT, as a sales tax, so to speak, so as to generate a lot more, in which case, for that 5%, you're not going to deduct the input VAT from the output VAT to, at least as it were, reimburse the businessman for the VAT, he or she pays upfront. That is usually deducted from the VAT that the final consumer pays, and generating a lot more resources. By implication, prices of goods and services are going to go up, and that the final consumer is going to pay a lot more. If you hide this fact from Ghanaians, what it would have been beautiful for the finance minister to say that, yes, we are not, as it were, increasing the 2.5% NHI levy, 2.5% GET fund, but what we are doing is that we are going to ensure that these two operate like sales tax, and that input VAT will not be deducted from the output VAT in a way that will reduce revenue generated. At least you would have been transparent, and everyone would have accepted and understood that yes, this is what you sought to do, this is what you intend to achieve. But where you want to shroud it in some unnecessary mystery and allow people to uncover before you own up, I think we are having credibility deficiency.
You're obviously not too impressed with the manner in which the finance minister and his government are handling the economy. I
think that the economy is in crisis. The economy is in real crisis. There are several aspects of the crisis that we can talk about.
They say it's your party. economic mishaps they are fixing?
Of course, they are over 18 months into their first term, and if 18 months into their tenure, they can still point accusing fingers at the previous government, then I'm afraid we are in a deeper crisis. You know, we have a government that is superintending and supervising a degeneration of society. We are having acute political polarization. We are having social disintegration, so to speak. We have a situation where we have a government that is intolerant. We saw this intolerance before the elections when President Nana Akufo-Addo, then leader of the NPP, decided to exit some members of his party as a basis for winning an election. And unfortunately, it happened that he won an elections. And so that attitude seems to permeate government business. We have the position of a governor of the Bank of Ghana, whose tenure, who has security of tenure. A government is so intolerant, cannot work with a governor whose term, would be ending in a year or two, but tries everything possible to exit the governor of the Bank of Ghana. He doesn't end there, still intolerant about the deputy governor, exits the deputy governor in a very shameful way. Of course, civil society is quiet, everyone is observing. And then we move into the heart of our democracy. In every country, the Electoral Commission is considered the heart of democracy. We have a situation where you now stick a knife into the heart of our democracy, exiting the Electoral Commissioner on charges that are contrived, charges that are arbitrary, charges that are politically motivated. Let me explain.
Okay, please do.
Now, we have reduced the bar. We have reduced the barriers for determining and assessing the performance of constitutional bodies and leaders of constitutional bodies.
So are you saying we have overlooked the allegations that were made?
It's unfortunate, one, that we had some level of disharmony between and among some members of the Electoral Commission. That is bad enough. But it is worse for the president or government, for that matter, to consider exiting the Electoral Commissioner on procurement issues.
But when is that based on the recommendations?
Wait. We'll come to that. We'll come to those recommendations. We'll come to that. Now, if you look at the Auditor General's report, it is replete with procurement challenges. As we speak today, the Finance Minister himself is culpable in some procurement arrangements. We have a number of ministers and chief executives today who are complicit, in procurement challenges. And if that becomes a standard for removing an electoral commissioner, what we are doing eventually is to make that position very unstable into the future. What it means is that any government in power can just pick one single issue of procurement as a basis for removing an electoral commissioner. And we all know that long before the NPP came to power, they had threatened to remove the electoral commissioner, that they didn't want the electoral commissioner. They came up with that we have procurement issues as a basis for removing the electoral commissioner. And are we saying that tomorrow we will not have some little procurement challenge with the judiciary, with other institutions, that a government cannot build on this precedent and ensure that all our constitutional bodies are unstable into the future? I don't understand the kind of politics we are trying to build, particularly under the MPP regime and under President Nana Akufo-Addo. It is frustrating, it is appalling.
Well, I asked this question of the Information Minister in a previous interview, Mr. Mustafa Hamid, and he said that he felt that the problems between Madame Charlotte Osei and her two deputies predated the NPP. In fact, Madame Charlotte Osei reported her two deputies to your president then, President John Dramani Mahama, and asked that they be removed. Now, you take these incidents forward. and you look at the 26 or so allegations that had been made, that these 3 commissioners had raised against each other, in addition to others that were raised by other members of staff. And then you have a Chief Justice Committee sit down to investigate them and say that these are for these reasons, and the reasons were quite clear. I think it would be a bit disingenuous to say let's underestimate them or understate them and say these are just procurement mishaps, so let's overlook them. Are you not just playing politics with the scenario?
Go to the ministries today, examine relationships between ministers and their deputies, and you realize that society is replete with disagreements between individuals, which manifested in the Electoral Commission. And if disagreements between individuals becomes the basis for determining and measuring competence and capacity for a clearly defined function, then I'm afraid our crisis is getting worse.
Now, let's stick with the EC. A new one has been named, Madam Jane Mensah. What do you make of Madam Jane Mensah's nomination?
Well, let me say that I'm rather worried at a more fundamental issue.
Which is?
Fundamental in the sense that we have made the position of Electoral Commissioner unstable. And I'm so worried about that into the future. The President certainly has his choice of leadership in various organizations and institutions. And he has demonstrated that from day one. Didn't he remove the governor of the Bank of Ghana? Was it a smooth removal? Didn't he remove the deputy governor? Didn't we hear him crying, wailing over the processes, but eventually had to yield to the superior power of the state and government? And then we came to the Electoral Commissioner. As we speak today, directors of the births and deaths registry have all been removed. Ghana is becoming a very serious, we are moving into a very serious crisis as a country. We can see a government that is leaving no stone unturned to put in systems and arrangements that only serve political purpose for one party, their party, number one, the party and government. This process may seem trivial, that people can ignore, but I can assure you that it will get to a point where the aggregate of these individual decisions could generate very serious social crisis for us as a country.
But you've still not stated your opinion on Madam Mensah.
Well, I don't want to. It's too early. I don't want to state. I don't want to comment on that. I have a fundamental problem with the process. What it simply means is that this lady could be exited tomorrow. That is what it means.
But not
I'm worried, and I'm over procurement. I'm worried, very, very worried for the Electoral Commission as we move forward as a country. I'm extremely worried. This is the institution that anchors the entire democracy of this country. Ghana's democracy that has received international laurels, that has been so acclaimed the world over, that many countries would want to come and learn from. This is the democracy that we are destroying. This is the heritage that the MPP wants to destroy. And I'm extremely worried and saddened by current developments. Some people may want to smile over it and say that, well, there has been procurement breaches. Since when did procurement breaches become a reason for removing an officer? In any case, it is the Auditor General's Department that pronounces judgment on procurement, which judgment then would go to our courts of law. We have a situation now that the Supreme Court is now superintending over matters exclusively within the remit of the Auditor General of Ghana. I'm getting worried. No. I am extremely worried.
So, Mr. Mensah is worried, but we have to take a commercial break. When we return, we'll have a conversation about his party, the NDC, and ask whether he still has ambitions of becoming President of the Republic of Ghana. Face to face, we'll be right back.
Spend 30 minutes every weekday catching up with all the trending social media conversations of the day. If you tweet it, we'll read it. We might just even Skype you. 30 minutes is all it takes, so use the hashtag 30minutes on social media to catch our attention. Join the most interactive social media TV show weekdays at 5 p.m. only on City TV.
We spice up your mornings with culturally enriched conversations, social interviews, and policy-oriented discussions that will keep you updated on the progress of the nation. Join the Breakfast Daily team Monday through Fridays from 7:30 a.m. to 10. Let your voice be heard with the hashtag Breakfast Daily. Join us for breakfast daily, only on City TV.
Welcome back. CEO of the Mr. Mensah. Are you happy with the current state of your party?
Oh yes, I think our party is in good shape. I don't know what people expect to see from a party that is working towards its reorganization of branches, of constituencies, of regions, of the national executive, and eventually working towards a presidential primaries to elect, as it were, a flag bearer. I mean, what else can one expect than to see people gravitating around individual candidates of their choice, their preferences, and trying to lobby, engage, campaign for those individuals. Under such circumstances, you don't expect to have, as it were, total unity within the party. Even within the context of social democracy, there are differences. And so, naturally, around this time, I think that we are in good shape. And if there are no ugly noises around the party across the country at this material moment, I think we need to give the NDC some credit. Some parties at this stage would be in turmoils, but we are still holding together.
Is that why you've been organizing unity walks across the country?
I've not been part of the unity walks.
Why?
I never found it useful.
You don't want to exercise with the other members of your party?
Well, if the purpose is for health consideration, then it is great. But the moment you add unity to the walk, then you've moved to a completely different realm. And unity comes after you have gone through competitive election, after you've gone through campaigns, after you have gone through a process of telling the public why they must vote for you and why they must not vote for others, and some relative acrimony arising as a result of such competition. Then you can then have a kind of a unity walk or a unity discussions and engagements. It's like putting the cart before the horse, and I thought, but of course that belongs to history. It's over now, and we are in a completely different phase of our progress as a party. So,
but it's important because you might be in the minority for those who say it's not important. Thousands embraced it all over the country. We saw thousands and thousands of supporters in the north, in the south, in the Volta region. They were there.
Well, I'm not afraid to be in a minority, particularly when it comes to issues and views and positions on issues. I'm not afraid to be in the minority. The majority cannot always be right. But I guess you also be wrong to think that to define who are in the majority as against who are in the minority. You may well be wrong. But that is a matter for another day.
Have you had time to sit back as a politician, as a strategist? You were the Greater Accra campaign coordinator for the 2016 election. Sit back and reflect on why your party lost the election.
Well, parties in government lose or win elections by the performance of government. So it is a performance of government that determines whether their parties will win or lose elections. And so it is obvious under the circumstances to say that perhaps the electorate were not too convinced or happy with this, with the pace of progress that we achieved. Of course, we made a lot of progress, we made some achievements, but the electorate might be looking for more, and that is what came out clearly from various surveys and searches, and we know of the famous Kwesiboche report, the team that went around the party to seek understanding from the electorate why we lost. I think that we have a clear understanding why we lost. We could have done better, and that is what we are working on now, trying to understand the areas that we didn't perform too well, and to see the best way when we win in 2020 elections. We're going to implement those policies and programs. So yes, that is where we are today, strategizing, engaging, lobbying, campaigning. That is what we are doing.
Have you seen the Kwesiboche report?
Yes, I have read the Kwesiboche report in full.
Why is the NDC refusing to share it?
I've never seen an MPP report on why they lose elections and why they have lost previous elections. I'm aware that the MPP undertakes such researches or surveys anytime they lose elections. They've never put any of those reports in the public domain. Indeed, unlike the NDC that announced, made a public declaration that it was going to investigate why we lost, the NPP does it in the quiet. That is the only difference.
Perhaps that is why they owe no obligation to share. You've decided to call press conferences.
Well, we did, and that doesn't mean that we must put the report in the public domain. These are political reports. It has to do with political campaign strategies and processes. It has to do with actions and omissions. It has to do with what was done right and what was not done right. Why do you want us to share that with the public? This is an internal document. On a need-to-know basis, party members have information on what went wrong and what needs to be fixed and at what level.
You've been saying you are consulting. You've been consulting for a while now. Have you made up your mind whether you want to run?
I made up my mind long ago. I'm running for the leadership of the party. But let me say that it is for me not a position to be encumbered. I see it as a job to be done. I see so many agencies we need to tackle. I see that there's a need to inject some level of agency into government business that I don't see at the present moment. The level of unemployment in the country is rising in geometric proportions. The MPP has no clue. This is something that we need to look at, and we have solutions. I have solutions for that. The issue of sanitation is getting worse by the day. Several countries have abolished or banned the use of plastics or rubber substances and have engaged in biodegradable materials in a way that reduces the volume of filth within the community, in the country, which in turn reduces the cost of managing waste. I mean, what are we doing as a country? Nothing.
18 months ago, you were in government.
There is agency.
You didn't do anything
I was managing the health insurance scheme, and
you could have shared the ideas.
And I brightened my corner.
No, you didn't have to brighten just your corner.
We need to introduce e-health to reduce the number of people who go to the hospitals. I see a lot of agency that government is not focusing on. We need to have a new institution that will be responsible entirely for e-health. That when you are sick today, you can just make a call to a center, explain exactly what the challenge, what the problem, what the physical condition is, and you get advised. There are some that you need not go to the hospital. There are others that you ought to go to the hospital. And so why can't other countries are doing this, and they are doing it very well? Agro-processing, I mean, as an agrarian economy, I mean, we don't see any focus on agro-processing, to the extent that even within the context of our annual Farmers' Day celebrations, people who win as national best farmers are given houses in Accra where they have to leave their farms and come and settle in Accra, and by so doing, I mean, sacrifice the farming for life in the urban communities. Somebody wins in the region as the best tomato farmer, and the person gets a motorbike. Can't we think outside the box? Can't we provide tomato processing equipments for the various best regional tomato farmers, that we can begin to process tomatoes and reduce post-harvest losses. The best bamboo farmer gets a bicycle, and we continue importing toothpick. I'm a little passionate about some of these. Yeah. When bamboo can be used or is used in manufacturing toothpick, simple machines can be procured if we can produce them here. Simple machines can be procured, whether in China, whether in India, whether in Turkey, Europe and the Americas. We can find these equipments there. We can produce toothpick, both for local production, local consumption, and for export. I simply can't understand. Our tourism is still in its embryonic stage. Move across Ghana today, go to Kenya, go to South Africa, go to Canada, Canada is far, but go to Egypt. What is their greatest resource? I just can't understand it. We cannot develop one tourist attraction in this country. We cannot devote some resources in a year's budget to address one major tourist attraction, one to encourage local tourism, before even thinking about foreigners trooping into Ghana, which every country would want to at the moment. It simply beats my imagination. We are looking at a free SHS. As we hear today, government is thinking about a shift system going back to the 1970s. We have been here before.
Let's be accurate. They didn't say shift. They said double track.
What's the meaning of a double track?
These are
semantics. These are semantics.
No, I think there's a clear difference.
No.
Let's stick with the facts.
Nomenclature.
This is not nomenclature.
Let us be straight about this.
Multi-track cannot be a shift system. The government has been pretty clear on this, Mr. Mensah. But speaking of this, I like that you are enumerating a lot of the things you want to do. But to be able to achieve this, you need to convince your party first. Do you think that the people within your party are ready for Sylvester Mensah?
Our party is the mood in our party today is for change. Change has occurred throughout our constituency elections. We expect to see a lot more changes in our regional elections.
You're convinced by this?
And a lot more at our national elections. And then we'll be plunging into the presidential primaries. I would be happy to meet with you sometime in January, when I would have been elected as a flag bearer of the NDC.
You are very confident about this.
Have a chat with you of our vision into the future. Ghana is in a hurry. I have passion for the youth of this country. My passion for the aged is unmeasurable. We need to deepen our social democratic credentials. We have wasted too much time without establishing ourselves as true social democrats. The time is now, and Ghana cannot wait.
I am not questioning your passion for Ghana. What I am questioning is your stature within your party, considering that we've heard of personalities like Honorable Alban Bakben say that he will also vie for the same flag bearership that you are interested in. We have not heard from the former president yet, your boss. Is he somebody, if he says he is going to contest, you are willing to stand up to bravely and say, I will contest you, President Mahama?
I have difficulties when discussions of this nature become personal, and where mention of individual names become the theme for discussion.
But that is what it is. You are contesting.
I believe that we can speak on matters of principle. We can address issues without necessarily engaging in the mentioning of names. Having said that, let me say that of all the names that you have mentioned, I guess I'm the most senior member of the party when it comes to seniority within the party. None of the names you have mentioned
elaborate on that.
None of the names you have mentioned can claim to have been part of the formation of the NDC.
Elaborate. How so?
So as far as the seniority within the NDC party is concerned, I'm the most senior among all the names you have mentioned. I didn't join the NDC as most of them did. I was part of the formation of the NDC as a political party. I was part of the team that heralded the formation of the NDC party, and I became a member of the first regional executive of the party. I was part of the team that, as it were, created the first set of constituencies of the party within the region. There's none among the names you have mentioned who was part of that process at the outset. And so when we are talking about seniority within the party, I want to make that very clear. Unfortunately for us as a people, when people talk about facts, they are misconstrued as being rather arrogant. But the facts are exactly what I have indicated. Let me also say that I see an urgent task to be performed. I don't see anybody ready to deliver on the tasks in this country the way I think I'm able and capable of doing. For which reason I'm not ceding this turf to any individual. And when I say individual, I mean any individual, without mentioning any name. I want to assure you and to assure all my listeners that Sylvester Mensah, not by my own power, but by the conviction of several other people who have come to me and impressed upon me to step up the plate, in particular to consider leadership of the NDC in the coming primaries in November, and to lead the NDC into the 2020 elections. An election that with my leadership, I can assure you that the NDC is going to win. The NPP has outlived its welcome. The palpable inefficiency has collapsed the party into the 2020 elections, and victory is just for us to pick. What Ghanaians need today is a fresh face, a new voice, a new passion, a new strategy, a new set of relationships, a new vision that will carry this country fast into the future and where all Ghanaians will be happy. We want to eliminate the challenge of paying rent, 3 years rent, 2 years rent, 1 year rent, which is impoverishing almost every home in this country, particularly within the cities. Why can't our children, young children who leave universities, rent houses and pay monthly rents? At worst, why can't they pay a deposit of between 1 to 3 months and then continue paying monthly rents, which will be manageable for every individual employed? Why do we continue allowing landlords to make life difficult for the younger generation? We need to support the younger generation if the future is for the youth. We need to look at, as it were, transforming the structure of our economy, moving fast into agro-processing and accelerating into light industry and eventually modernizing this country. We can't wait for the NPP to implement SHS in a way that would impoverish the entire people of this country before we retire them in 2020 for Sylvester Mensah to lead this country.
A very confident Mr. Sylvester Mensah taking us on the political platform. We'll return for the final hurdle of Face to Face.
Wherever the weekend sporting action happened, we will bring it to you here on Scorecard. Every goal, every dunk, every punch, the winning strides, and the winning volleys.
Come international media, he said, look, wait, sit and wait. Let me have a meal with my people. And I think that's the same cool, it's the same organization he brings to the field every time I've seen him play. He looks to me like somebody who's played over 50 caps already. Okay. But this guy has barely played over 25 caps for the national team.
All of the weekend's action in one place. Scorecard. Every Sunday at 8 p.m. prompt on City TV.
Every Thursday night on City TV, you're welcome to join women from different backgrounds and opinions as they weigh in on your relationship issues. Watch Sister Sister as the ladies get real with issues about love, marriage, betrayal, sex, dating, trust, finances, and more.
Sometimes some of the guys are like, oh no, they want to wait before they get married. So there are little political response. Oh, I'm saying, hold on, lady. What if she does all the kiss and all of that and still nothing? That's it.
If he really wants you like that.
So it's like,
Join Jessica and her sisters for City TV's all-women talk show, Sister Sister, every Thursday at 7 p.m. Also, live on 97.3 City FM.
Yeah, welcome back to Face to Face, and my guest is Mr. Sylvester Mensah. Now he wants to turn my Face to Face into his political platform, but I have a couple of other questions for Mr. Mensah. Now, Mr. Mensah, let's stay with the NDC, and you've confirmed on Face to Face that you are not ceding ground to anybody. You intend to contest for the flag bearership of the party. Now, this is a party that lost the last election by 1 million votes. That's quite the turnaround, considering you were the incumbent. How do you go about convincing people on this kind of turnaround? Now, I know you've spoken a lot about the things you want to do, but bottom line, a lot of people, especially young people, simply do not trust the NDC enough. How do you fix that broken barrier?
Well, the MPP lost the 92 elections. People did not trust them, is that right?
That was a first, at least.
They came back. They lost the 2008 elections. They were not trusted, is that right? They came back later. I think that let us move the issue away from that. We have observed that since the inception of the Fourth Republic, all political parties have been going through a two-term cycle. Even though no political party is guaranteed a second term. We lost an elections, of course, because we didn't provide enough hope into the future. We lost an elections because we thought Ghanaians would simply look at infrastructural developments, even if not in their respective regions and constituencies, would consider the fact that, well, once it happened for this region, for this constituency, given another term, it could also happen for us. And since we also failed in our campaign to provide that hope and to tell that story, naturally, people's withdrawal from voting for us can be understood. Indeed, we had the hard factors and the soft factors. The hard factors were infrastructure. The soft factors had to do with policies and initiatives that would generate employment, which eventually generates happiness. Perhaps we need to step up our work in that direction. The number of people who did not vote were not MPP people, but they were our own party members who did not vote for one reason or the other, and who felt that perhaps we could have done something better. It is our responsibility now to liaise with them, link up with them, engage them, understand their critical concerns, which we have, and collate those into a workable program in government. And that is what I'm doing with my team, working around all these ideas and injecting some form of urgency into government business when we come back in 2020. At the moment, as we speak, Ghanaians are even more angry with the MPP than they were with the NDC in the 2016 elections. We need to get over our regional elections, get over our national elections, review our party constitution, ensure that some of the loose ends that also led to some government actions that did not favor the party would be addressed. We need to review our party constitution in such a way that no single individual, whether as president or in any other position, would have the sole prerogative, the sole responsibility of dealing with all issues relating to political placements without recourse to the party. That should be a thing of the past. And that is what I stand for. That is what I represent. It is critical that we also institute term limits for all levels of management within the party. We need to ensure that we understand the heartbeat of the party and operate within that context. It is important that anyone who leads the party today is given the opportunity to go around the country, engage the people, understand exactly what they expect in government, and get to know the talents we have around, so that we don't get into government and exercise power in a way that would cause disaffection for the entire party. And so, yes, there are challenges, but of course we have a lot more solutions than the challenges that we have. And we are confident that given the opportunity in 2020, the NDC will bounce back like never before.
Now, if the NDC wants to bounce back, you spoke about your seniority within the party based on the fact that you were there when the blueprint was being laid for the party. You've held a couple of positions within the party as well.
Yeah, I was the first regional youth organizer of the party in 1992. I became the regional secretary of the party in 1994 for 7 good years. I never lost an election. I stepped down because I thought 7 years was enough for my deputy to also take over. I believe that it gets to a point where people must simply phase out, allow new faces for people to, for the party to regenerate around new faces, and also to ensure that a whole new cohort of Ghanaians join the party as a result of the age groups that emerge as leaders, so that we can have various layers of leadership in the party and let everyone appreciate that everyone has an opportunity in our great party. Right. It is not in the interest of the party for individuals to encumber positions beyond a certain point, beyond a certain time limit. And I believe these are some of the, it's a culture that needs to be handed down to the party, and it's all a function of leadership.
Yeah. Now, even though you held these roles, the question I wanted to ask was, there are others who've become more of a national face of the party. You were a bit content with being a technocrat for the party. If you say this is a party that is hungry to come back to power immediately, don't you think that your limited stature, you don't admit that you don't have a national presence, you don't think that limits your appeal to the party?
Well, we are going into an election. We have delegates. We are currently appealing to our delegates, even though we're also making a general appeal to the public, because there are others that can also influence the delegates. And that is why I'm here, and that is why I accepted your interview, even though the notice was so short. I guess, given the opportunity to go around the country, what I have that I believe most people don't have is a message. I have a good message. Not only a message, I have policies and programs that would radically transform this country. It's a little difficult determining when to put out some of these ideas and when not to. At what forum and what forum not to. But I can assure you that with the rounds that we're making across the country, in our engagements with the constituencies and the branches, the mood of the party is for change. And my popularity, even in the northern region and the northern sector of this country, is unimaginable. I can assure you that by September, October this year, go around this country and redefine what you mean by stature and national appeal.
Okay, so you are throwing your challenge. 24th. 6 years since the passing of former President John Evans Atta Mills. Do you miss him?
Very much. Prof Mills was a fantastic father figure. One thing that Ghanaians will remember him for was his concept of father for all. He attempted to stop the cycle of political victimization in this country by introducing the concept of father for all. Ghanaians will remember that he won an election, and rather than asking all appointees to vacate their offices. He said that even district chief executives should remain at post until he finally appoints new district chief executives to take over. It took 3 months and in some cases more for the appointments to be effected to replace the existing district chief executives. I was appointed the chief executive of the National Health Insurance Authority in June, and so the MPP appointee, chief executive of the National Health Insurance Authority, remained in office January, February, March, April, May, until June when I took over. I think that it was not a case of President Mills not in a hurry and not wanting to appoint, but to make a loud statement that Ghana belongs to Ghanaians and government must be managed by Ghanaians, and that there should be no political polarization, and that we must see each other first as Ghanaians before political parties. He did everything possible. I remember the governor of the Bank of Ghana at the time had about 2 years or so to complete his tenure. He allowed the governor to complete his tenure. Policies and programs were jointly discussed irrespective of when he was appointed and the regime under which he was appointed. Very transparent, very open. Not what we are seeing today in this country. And it is sad that as we commemorate the passing away of the late dear president, we have in this country an acute form of political polarization. Prof Mills would turn in his grave, because this is not what he intended. He provided true leadership. It isn't the case that he wasn't being pushed by party members who were hungry for positions and who believed that some actions should be taken. He took up leadership. At the moment, what we are experiencing is a breakdown of moral leadership. And that is very sad for the memory of the late President Professor Mills.
And finally, you wrote a nice book. Are you working on the second one?
Oh yes, I'm working on 2 books at the same time. And yeah.
This time not political?
One political, one professional.
All right, then we'll be waiting to read them. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much too. I hope to come back on this program again soon and share a few ideas about the future and about my passion for this country.
Thank you very much. Well,
thank you.
We've been speaking to Mr. Sylvester Mensah, who has confirmed that he will indeed contest for the flag bearership of the NDC come their National Delegates Conference. Hope you enjoyed Face to Face. My name is Godfrey Akotobuafo. Bye.